David Gandy entered fashion through a competition he never chose to join. At 21, he was studying marketing in Gloucestershire after giving up veterinary surgery. Cars interested him more than clothes. Then, a university flatmate sent his details to ITV's Male Face of 2001 contest without telling him. Gandy won a contract with Select Model Management, but the victory led into years of catalog work and runway castings where his broad frame worked against him. Early 2000s menswear favored a lean silhouette, and many samples could not fit him. In 2007, Dolce & Gabbana placed that same body at the center of its light blue Pour Homme campaign. Mario Testino's image from Capri reached Times Square and audiences worldwide. The build that kept Gandy outside fashion's most important rooms was suddenly selling luxury globally. After years of being wrong for the moment, he became the man the market wanted to copy. David James Gandy grew up in Billericay, Essex, in a family where work formed part of daily life. His parents ran businesses from home, where steady effort shaped daily life. School interested him less than sport, animals, and cars. He hoped to become a veterinary surgeon, though his grades fell short of the veterinary course requirements. That plan ended before adulthood offered him another clear direction. Cars filled the gap. He could identify models, engines, and performance figures from childhood, and the interest carried into a summer with Auto Express after school. The placement started as work experience and lasted longer than expected. He helped move cars to test locations and spent time around the machines he had read about for years. Automotive journalism seemed possible. Fashion did not. He later enrolled at the University of Gloucestershire to study marketing. University gave him independence without settling his future. Modeling entered during that uncertainty. A flatmate submitted his details to Male Face of 2001, a competition run by ITV's This Morning. Gandy knew nothing about the entry until the process had begun. He had no portfolio, agency contacts, or childhood ambition attached to the outcome. He won at 21. The prize was a contract with Select Model Management in London. That contract opened the industry, though it carried no promise that clients would book him. Television reduced the beginning to a clean sequence. A young man gets entered, wins, and becomes a model. The working reality began after the cameras stopped. At first, modeling looked temporary. Gandy expected the contract to earn him some money and leave him free to return to cars or another profession. As modeling began taking up more of his time, university moved into the background. Gandy entered Select with little knowledge of fashion and no clear sense of where the contract might lead. He still viewed modeling as an unexpected opportunity rather than a permanent career, something he could try before returning to the world he had originally imagined for himself. Years later, This Morning welcomed him back as the international model who had started on its own catwalk. The return made the competition look prophetic. In 2001, it had been an accident with a contract attached. Gandy had entered through a door opened by somebody else, with no idea what waited beyond it. Gandy entered modeling as menswear was moving toward a leaner, younger silhouette. Hedi Slimaine's work at Dior Homme helped define the period, with narrow tailoring designed around slight bodies. The look spread through runway casting, magazines, and other collections until thinness became closely tied to high-fashion menswear. The clothes reinforced that preference. Sample garments are made before a collection reaches stores and are used for fittings, shows, and editorial shoots. During this period, standard samples moved from around a size 40 toward a 38, with some cut as small as a 36. Those measurements left little room for men with broader shoulders or heavier builds. Gandy stood over 6 feet and had developed a strong frame through sport and training. Commercial clients could use that presence in catalogs and menswear campaigns, though runway work followed the proportions of the samples. Designers wanted models who allowed the clothes to hang exactly as intended, and Gandy's body altered the line they had designed. Select still found him regular work. Catalog shoots took him abroad, paid well enough, and taught him how to perform consistently in front of a camera. He learned how to take direction, adjust his movement, and deliver usable photographs across long shooting days. The jobs gave him experience without giving the public a reason to learn his name. That became the shape of his early career: steady work at one level and limited access to the next. He belonged to a leading London agency and regularly entered the same casting circuit as successful runway models. Yet much of the industry had already chosen a body type that placed him at a disadvantage before he stepped in front of the client. The problem reached beyond size alone. Fashion at the time often favored pale, youthful, and less conventionally handsome faces. Gandy looked older, stronger, and more traditionally masculine than many of the men being booked. His appearance carried obvious commercial appeal, though the most influential runway houses were searching for something else. He had entered the right profession during the wrong aesthetic moment. The qualities that made him distinctive had little value in the section of fashion that created prestige. The consequences appeared at castings across London. Gandy would arrive after traveling across the city, change into the clothes, and discover within moments that the fitting was over. Jackets pulled tightly across his shoulders. Trousers sat too close through the legs and waist. The client moved on before he had much chance to speak. He heard the same descriptions repeatedly. Too large, too broad, too traditionally handsome for the mood of the season. Gandy later described the dominant look as skinny androgyny, a phrase that captured how far his appearance sat from the men booking the strongest shows. Models expect rejection. Every face suits some clients and fails with others. Gandy's difficulty came from hearing the same objection over several years. Experience made him more professional, though professionalism could not solve a fitting that ended at the clothes rail. He continued earning through catalogs and commercial shoots. From the outside, that could look like a successful modeling career. He traveled, worked for recognizable clients, and made a living from photographs. Inside the agency system, he could see the difference between regular employment and the kind of booking that changed how the industry viewed a model. The years passed through small jobs rather than dramatic setbacks. One catalog led to another. A casting offered hope, then ended. Each season brought new collections while his position remained almost unchanged. He had enough work to stay and enough ambition to feel how little progress he was making. Male models also lacked many of the paths available to famous women in fashion. Leading female models could become public personalities whose names carried value across brands. Men often disappeared behind the clothes or products they advertised. Even a widely seen campaign might leave the model anonymous. Gandy began paying attention to that difference. He watched how agencies handled careers, how clients built campaigns, and how quickly successful men could be replaced by a newer face. The experience taught him that visibility alone would never guarantee longevity. For nearly 5 years, he remained a working model without the image that could separate him from everyone else on the agency board. The industry had already shown him what it could not use. He was still waiting for a client that understood what it could. Models often respond to the market by reshaping themselves around it. For Gandy, the route toward more runway work was obvious. A slimmer frame would have brought him closer to the men booking the strongest editorial jobs. He continued training. Sport had been part of his life before modeling, and exercise gave him a sense of control that casting could not. He had gone through different body shapes as a teenager and felt more comfortable after building himself up. His physique came from preference and routine rather than a plan to challenge fashion. The choice carried a professional cost. Each gain in size moved him farther from the measurements dominating menswear. Other models kept themselves slight enough for fittings while he ate to support training and strength. The contrast made his path harder, though it also kept him from rebuilding his life around a trend he never liked. Years later, he spoke about exercise as support for his mental health and acknowledged difficult periods. Rejection brought frustration, though he remained secure in the body he had built. Fashion limited his career without breaking his sense of self. Professional pressure still followed him. Fashion rewarded one narrow type, leaving Gandy to chase it or work where his existing appearance made sense. He chose the latter and accepted that certain doors would remain closed. There was stubbornness in that decision, along with practicality. Gandy had no proof that his build would become fashionable. Becoming much thinner meant living inside a body chosen for clothes he might wear for one season. He preferred the routine that kept him physically and mentally grounded. No designer issued a formal ultimatum. Pressure arrived through outcomes, shortened fittings, lost jobs, and agents searching for clients who saw value in him. Catalog work prevented a complete break with the industry. Commercial clients could use his conventional masculinity more easily than runway houses could, and the income allowed him to keep going. He continued learning while the right opportunity remained invisible. His breakthrough came when one fashion house stopped treating his physical presence as a problem to work around and built the image around it. Dolce & Gabbana entered Gandy's career well before the fragrance campaign that made him internationally recognizable. He began working with the house in smaller roles, gradually appearing in apparel projects and becoming part of its recurring menswear imagery. By 2006, Select was describing him as a muse for the brand. The connection made sense visually. Dolce & Gabbana's menswear drew heavily from Italian tailoring, sport, cinema, and Mediterranean masculinity. Its campaigns often favored men who appeared confident, mature, and physically commanding. Gandy could inhabit that world naturally. His build gave the clothes and photographs a weight that suited the house's style. Select founder Tandy Anderson played an important part in developing the partnership. At the time, some people around Gandy believed Armani would be the more obvious direction for his career. Anderson continued backing Dolce & Gabbana, convinced that the house offered a stronger match. Gandy trusted that judgment and remained committed as the work became more substantial. The value of the partnership came from consistency. Dolce & Gabbana used him often enough for the designers, photographers, and production teams to understand what he brought to a set. Gandy learned how the house presented men, how its tailoring should be worn, and how much restraint its photographs required. Each assignment reduced the need to introduce him again. That working rhythm became visible in June 2006 when Gandy appeared in the house's Spring and Summer 2007 menswear show. He looked broader and more classically built than many of the models around him, yet his presence suited the collection. The appearance strengthened his position within the house and gave him greater visibility among the international audience following its runway shows. By then, Dolce & Gabbana had worked with him often enough to understand how he responded to direction and how he carried its clothes. Gandy also knew the house's expectations. He understood when an image required confidence, when to hold back, and how the designers balanced tailoring with a more sensual form of masculinity. That familiarity became important when the house prepared the men's version of light blue. The women's fragrance had already established Capri as part of its identity, and the new campaign would return to the same Mediterranean setting. Dolce & Gabbana needed a male lead who felt connected to its existing world while giving the fragrance a separate presence. Gandy received the assignment after several years of gradual progress with the house. The decision came from an established working relationship rather than a sudden discovery at a casting. He had already proved that he could represent the brand across apparel, runway, and photography. The next stage would depend on a single campaign reaching far beyond the fashion audience that already knew him. The light blue Pour Homme campaign reached the public in 2007. Mario Testino photographed Gandy off the coast of Capri in white swim trunks, reclining in a small boat on the Mediterranean. Montenegrin model Maria Vujovic appeared alongside him in the original campaign. The project included still photographs and film created for magazines, television, outdoor advertising, and online release. Testino built the campaign around a restrained image of Mediterranean leisure. Gandy appeared relaxed rather than posed for a display of strength. The white swimwear, dark hair, blue water, and open sunlight made the image easy to recognize at a glance. Its visual simplicity also allowed it to work at every scale, from a magazine page to an enormous public billboard. That simplicity helped the image travel. Select credits the campaign with more than 11 million internet views, a striking figure at the time. A 50-foot billboard in Times Square made Gandy familiar to people who had never watched a menswear show. At first, many viewers knew the image better than the man inside it. Gandy became the figure in the white trunks before he became David Gandy to a broad audience. That recognition created an opening and a risk. The campaign could define him more strongly than his own name. Gandy recognized the opportunity. Light blue provided attention that runway success rarely gave male models. Fragrance campaigns repeat for long periods, reach customers outside fashion magazines, and sell through visual fantasy. The face can remain visible through seasons in a way that a collection cannot. The campaign used every quality his early career had struggled to place. Testino gave his physical presence room to define the advertisement instead of hiding it behind tailoring. Dolce and Gabbana kept returning to the formula. Gandy reprised the role in light blue campaigns with Anna Jagodzinska and Bianca Balti. Later versions preserved the white swimwear and Mediterranean setting while changing the chemistry around him. Repetition strengthened the association between Gandy, the fragrance, and Capri. The image earned the description iconic through sustained use rather than one season of praise. Dolce and Gabbana published a book devoted to Gandy in 2011, drawing on years of work with the house. By then, the campaign had become the center of his career and a famous male fragrance advertisement of its era. Capri supplied the context that earlier fashion had failed to find. Gandy looked less like an exception and more like the only man the image could have used. The response extended beyond Gandy's bookings. Clients began asking agencies for stronger men and larger waists. Select agent Heidi Beatty described a change in casting briefs after his rise, a practical sign that demand had entered the business itself. Written measurements carry more weight than vague praise. They tell an agency which bodies a client expects to see. Mario Testino placed Gandy within an older tradition of male supermodels and suggested that the thin, decadent look had reached a limit. His view reflected an aesthetic judgment, while the casting briefs showed commercial movement. Together, they marked a shift in parts of the market toward an adult, athletic form of masculinity. Gandy did not make narrow runway samples disappear. Designers continued using lean young men, and high-fashion menswear kept moving through different versions of slimness. His strongest influence appeared in fragrance advertising, underwear, commercial tailoring, and premium retail. Those areas respond quickly when an image proves it can sell to a broad audience. Other muscular male models had succeeded before him. Marcus Schenkenberg became famous through Calvin Klein in the early 1990s. Tyson Beckford built a defining relationship with Ralph Lauren. Gandy entered an existing lineage rather than creating muscular male modeling from nothing. His contribution came from timing and control. He rose after high fashion had spent years favoring a narrower male silhouette. Light blue brought a broader, older-looking figure back into global luxury advertising during a period when that image felt newly distinct. Gandy also built recognition from inside modeling without arriving as a footballer, musician, or actor whose fame already existed. David Beckham offers the clearest nearby comparison. His Emporio Armani underwear advertisements helped move stronger male bodies into mainstream fashion imagery. Beckham brought a worldwide sports audience to the campaign. Gandy gained his wider audience through the campaign itself. Their routes met in advertising, though they began from opposite directions. The market never moved as one unit. Runway, editorial, fragrance, and retail answer to different needs. Gandy's career exposed those divisions as advertising gave him reach and retail later converted recognition into products. The change also influenced how agencies understood male model potential. A man could carry a luxury house across years, become recognizable outside fashion, and extend that attention into media or design. Gandy expanded the expectation around what one male model could build, even where runway standards stayed largely intact. Light blue created recognition, and Gandy worked to keep that recognition attached to his name. He studied the women who had turned modeling into durable businesses. Cindy Crawford, Christy Turlington, Naomi Campbell, and other leading models had teams, public identities, and long relationships with brands. Their careers continued beyond the useful life of one photograph. Crawford's approach gave him a phrase he repeated for years. She wanted a marriage with a brand rather than a one-night stand. Gandy applied that idea to Dolce and Gabbana and to other partnerships that lasted across seasons. Loyalty reduced the number of random campaigns he accepted while strengthening the public connection to the work he chose. He also used media to give audiences more than the light blue image. Vogue invited him to write online. His interest in cars returned through work for outlets including GQ and the Daily Telegraph. These projects suited him because the subject existed before modeling. He could discuss classic cars and engineering with the enthusiasm of a lifelong hobby rather than the borrowed language of a campaign. In 2010, he launched the David Gandy Men's Style Guide application. A later fitness application followed, showing an early interest in creating products around his public identity. British fashion institutions gave him another role. He became an official ambassador for London collections, men, and supported the British Fashion Council's effort to promote menswear in the capital. The position placed him beside people working to raise the profile of British men's fashion. It gave an industry function to visibility he had built commercially. The 2012 London Olympics closing ceremony showed how far that visibility had traveled. Gandy appeared as the sole male model in a fashion segment with Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, and other British figures. The setting presented models as representatives of national culture. His inclusion showed that the light blue face had become recognizable beyond one Italian house. Forbes placed him among the most successful male models in 2009 and among the highest paid in 2013. Those lists relied on estimated earnings, though they confirmed his position near the top of a profession where men earned far less than leading women. His strategy addressed that imbalance through range. A campaign fee ends with the job. Writing, applications, ambassadorships, design work, and long partnerships create other ways for a name to remain useful. Gandy treated modeling as the platform beneath those activities. His public voice helped separate discipline from vanity. He could discuss training, tailoring, or cars without reducing every subject to appearance, giving interviews a wider range. This wider identity addressed a common weakness of male modeling. Audiences often remember the campaign while forgetting the model. His writing, industry appearances, and product work gave the name David Gandy a life beyond the fragrance advertisement. By 2019, he could say plainly that he had built a brand from himself after light blue, using female supermodels as his example. Earlier male models had created businesses and strong brand associations, though few of his generation combined luxury campaigns, media work, industry roles, and retail design with the same consistency. The campaign opened the door. He built a career capable of standing after the image faded. Marks & Spencer gave Gandy a direct test of whether his image could sell products carrying his own name. The relationship developed through modeling and the retailer's advertising before expanding into design. In 2014, David Gandy for Autograph launched with 28 pieces of underwear and sleepwear, sold online and through more than 250 stores worldwide. The collection used the physical identity already attached to him, though Gandy joined the design process rather than lending only his photograph. The pieces focused on fabric, fit, and details he wanted in his own wardrobe. That involvement allowed Marks & Spencer to present the line as a collaboration, while his campaign images connected it to the man customers already knew. The launch expanded into further underwear, loungewear, swimwear, and tailoring. Marks & Spencer later described the Autograph swimwear and loungewear range as successful in company reporting. The partnership continued for years, giving Gandy experience with product development and the limits of designing inside a large retailer. Retail imposed a clearer discipline than editorial fame. A continuing collection has to sell well enough for the retailer to expand it. Marks & Spencer returned across categories, showing that the association retained value after the publicity cycle. The collaboration also moved him closer to ownership. He learned how products develop, how customers respond, and where a large company controls decisions. Those lessons became useful when he launched David Gandy Wellwear in 2021. Wellwear focused on comfort and well-being through loungewear and everyday pieces. The brand drew on his experience with clothing while placing more control in his hands. He could shape the identity, product direction, and long-term value rather than serving as the public face of somebody else's collection. The move followed the female supermodels he had studied. Their strongest careers turned visibility into companies and lasting control. Gandy passed through fragrance, media, industry roles, and retail before reaching an independent label. Each step reduced his dependence on seasonal casting. Dolce & Gabbana remained central to his public identity, and he continued appearing in fashion and fragrance work. Wellwear added another relationship to that history, one in which the name on the campaign and the business behind it belonged to the same person. Marks & Spencer had shown that customers would follow him from advertising into retail. Wellwear tested whether that connection could support a company built for the years after modeling became less central. The reversal appeared gradually through the work he could control. 2 decades after fashion struggled to place him, his image, judgment, and name supported a business of his own. David Gandy's career began with somebody else filling out a competition form. The accident brought him into modeling, though it gave him no protection from the years that followed. He worked catalogs, attended castings, and heard that his frame sat outside the shape menswear wanted. The criticism came through clothes that would not fit and jobs that went elsewhere. He stayed long enough for another part of fashion to recognize what high fashion casting had overlooked. Dolce and Gabbana had room for a stronger, more mature form of masculinity. Light blue placed it against the sea off Capri, and Mario Testino made the image simple enough to survive repetition. The campaign traveled through screens and magazines before rising above Times Square. Gandy then faced the harder task of preventing one photograph from becoming the limit of his identity. He learned from female supermodels who treated fame as a business. He wrote about cars and style, supported British menswear, developed applications, and entered retail design. Marks and Spencer turned his name into a continuing product line. Wellwear moved that name into ownership. His influence needs no claim that he remade every male runway. Narrow samples continued, and muscular men had achieved fame long before him. Gandy's place comes from the moment he entered and the structure he built afterward. He showed that a male model could use commercial visibility as the beginning of a career rather than its peak. That may be the clearest measure of his endurance. The campaign created attention, while his later decisions turned that attention into independence that survived changing tastes. The light blue image still returns whenever fashion looks back at the period. New fragrance campaigns continue using Capri, white swimwear, blue water, and the promise of private summer luxury. The formula remains familiar because the original still carries weight. The industry never gathered to admit that its early judgment had failed. Markets rarely change that way. They shift through bookings, sales, and imitation. Gandy's path records each stage without requiring a formal apology. Underneath the billboards and business ventures remains the young man from Essex who preferred cars to clothes and entered fashion without intending to. His success grew from chance, endurance, and an ability to recognize what one campaign had placed in his hands. Fashion found value in him late. Gandy made sure that value would eventually belong to him.